how can we support people who are in conflict with each other? So relationships is one of the most important arenas of people's lives, most people's lives. Relationships is the greatest source of meaning, or one of the greatest sources of meaning and fulfillment for people, and therefore also one of the greatest sources of pain and suffering for people. If we want to support somebody who is in conflict, there are certain key principles which are very helpful to be aware of, and certain very powerful tools that we can use. Simple tools which make a huge impact when used efficiently, effectively. So let me share with you some of those principles that I have discovered in my life. Principle number 1 is that every external conflict mirrors some form of internal conflict. Every conflict I have in my life with somebody else mirrors some inner conflict I'm having. If I don't have some form of inner conflict, then the outer conflict is not really a conflict, but it may be a disagreement, but I can deal with it. There's a lack of reactivity. Conflict means not only disagreement, it means disagreement together with some form of reactive behavior, some form of intense emotions, negative so-called emotions, some kind of battle, competition, fight, where there is a feeling of winning or losing. So first principle, there's an inner conflict underlying every external conflict. This means external conflicts are a growth opportunity. It's not only about solving the external conflict, it's about using the external conflict to learn something about myself. Because if I have a conflict with somebody and it mirrors my inner conflict, it means this inner conflict, unless dealt with, will pop up somewhere else or later in the relationship. So if we want to go to the root, we need to go to the inner conflict. So this is the first principle. Help people take the external situation and bring it home to my feelings and my needs and my wishes. Second principle is to know that every conflict is about needs not getting met. Now, if we know that every need at the deepest level is actually fulfilled from the inside, we have a tremendous potential to resolve conflicts. And if we know that needs are not really in conflict, it is the strategy we use to fulfill our needs which are in conflict. So this principle helps us to see that when I work with people, when I want to support somebody who is in conflict, bring the conflict back to the individual needs of both people. And then if you can also help the people to see the difference between the need, which is a deeper quality of the heart, and the strategy, then it's possible to resolve the conflict. If you want to take it further, as we do in Zen coaching, you help the person discover they are that which they long for. That takes completely away the charge of having to have it from the outside. We are only desperate when we think we must get our need met from the outside. Principle number 3 is to realize that often when people are in conflict, they are emotionally reacting as if they are fighting for their lives. There is very often some kind of unconscious, subconscious regression to a childhood situation where I feel my life is in danger, and if I don't win this battle, I'm going to die. It feels, rationally it doesn't make sense often, but emotionally I'm fighting for my life. For a small child to belong, to be valued, to be loved, to be cared for, to be respected, isn't a matter of nice to have, it's a must have. Now, many of those feelings from early childhood where we felt really threatened in our very survival because our parents were rejecting us and we thought without them we'll die, which is actually true for a small baby. Without the help of grown-ups, a small baby, a small child may die. So these emotions then suppressed surface when we are adult and we end up in a conflict with somebody. So I have to realize we're dealing with situations where people are often reacting from shock, from trauma, and that when they do that, their cognitive function is shutting down. They cannot think rationally. In that situation, we need to help people breathe, slow down, feel, be safe. We can't work with at the rational emotional level before the person has returned to a situation where the cognitive function is actually turned on. So we have to have this awareness that sometimes we need just to support people to come back to a sense of their own resources, get out of shock. Next principle, fourth principle, I believe, is once people are in touch with their needs, if you can create a situation of empathic receiving of each other's needs, the conflict will be solved 99.5% for sure. So if this person has an intense need, this person has an intense need, if they are able to see each other's need and express them, I see you have a need for, if they can do that to each other, hearts will open, tension will relax, empathy, mutual empathy will arise, and solutions will be found. It doesn't have to be a high-quality empathic receiving of each other's need. Just being able to say it often takes us enough in the direction of resolution. So sometimes when people are in that situation, we need to practice emergency empathy. It's escalating. And we may have to give one person some empathy so the person cools down, gets in touch with their need before the two people can actually talk to each other. So often it helps, in my experience, to if you're supporting two people in conflict, first have a conversation with one person. Give a lot of listening, deep listening, empathic listening, questions that identifies the feelings and needs, and then talk to the other person. Do the same. And then again, talk to the first person. And here, slowly you can introduce some of the needs of the other person to start the process of, okay, maybe that's one way to look at the other person. So you soften. By the time the people meet, they're already ready. Sometimes the conflict is solved before they even meet. So if you work individually with two people, when they meet, it's easy for them, or at least easier for them, to see each other's need, to reflect the need, and to create empathic connection where solutions are easy. Once mutual empathic connection on the aspect of needs arises, the strategies to resolve the difference is generally not difficult. Another aspect to be aware of in conflict is a conflict is a bit like a ladder. It begins with a small disagreement, follows with a judgment, followed with an attack, followed with a stronger attack, and it's like a descent into ever-increasing enemy images. At the very bottom of that ladder, we are actually wanting to destroy the other person. And that's what we see in physical violence and globally in war. We're willing to obliterate, kill, drop bombs. The other is simply an enemy. It's no longer a living soul. So it's like a descent. So to sense how far down the ladder have these people gone, So they're starting here. Basically, we can say on a scale from 1 to 10, what's the severity, intensity of this conflict? And we have to often walk up the ladder. So if you're at the very bottom of the ladder, you support the group to take one step up, de-escalate the conflict. So you may not be able to jump to the top of the ladder or the stairs. You take one step, and then one step, and then one step, and suddenly the conflict is resolved. So step by step. Check the intensity, be satisfied, first meeting, okay, we managed to create a little space around this. No longer are they willing to kill each other or like seeing an absolute horrific enemy. So we open the gate for some light to come in until the people start seeing, oh, there's a human being with feelings and needs. It's not just an enemy. What happens is our survival mechanism gets activated and we no longer see souls, we see enemies, we see objects. We want to introduce humanity, and it may be a step-by-step process. So, disagreement is not conflict. Sometimes two people, they have a conflict through a process of identifying mutual feelings and needs, creating an understanding of each other. They may come to a point where they see, okay, here we are very different, and they accept the difference. There are certain things you can't give me, there are certain things you can't give me, there are certain differences that can't be resolved with a strategy, and it is okay. We agree to disagree, or we agree to be different in this area. So this disagreement or difference isn't conflict. Conflict is when we can't live with difference and disagreement. Now, the focus on needs is very powerful when dealing with conflicts. In fact, always in life. Learning needs, learning to hear needs, to see needs, and to understand that if two people can see each other's needs, the relationship will expand, open, and unfold. So these were some of the key tools we have. There are many more, and I would love to share them with you. I hope to see you in some workshop where we can go deep into these subjects. So have a nice day.